They promised the truth would never come out. But now, thousands of pages of Jeffrey Epstein's secret documents are being released, and the names, the meetings, and the connections are sending shockwaves through Hollywood, politics, and beyond. For years, the name Jeffrey Epstein has been whispered like a curse through corridors of power, a shadow that stretched across the worlds of finance, entertainment, and politics. His story, a grotesque mix of money, manipulation, and abuse, has always been wrapped in secrecy, with rumors of powerful friends and even more powerful enemies. Ever since his shocking death in 2019, officially ruled a suicide, though conspiracy theories still rage, the world has been waiting, demanding, and speculating about what Epstein's files might reveal. Who did he meet? Who did he call? Who flew on his planes or visited his mansions? Who was complicit? And who was simply trapped in the orbit of one of the most toxic figures of the 21st century? For years, survivors have begged for transparency, conspiracy theorists have shouted about cover-ups, and governments have been accused of stonewalling. And now, in September 2025, the dam is finally cracking because newly released documents from Epstein's estate and archives are beginning to spill into the public eye. Documents that include calendars, call logs, visitor records, and even bizarre personal memorabilia that shines new light on just how deep his network really went. According to reports, the House Oversight Committee recently received a massive trove of materials from Epstein's estate, with plans to release them publicly, though with redactions to protect victim identities. Early leaks and previews of these files already mention high-profile names that dominate headlines: Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Steve Bannon, and Peter Thiel among them. For years, whispers connected these men to Epstein, but the details were vague. Now, the documents are showing scheduled meetings, logged interactions, and notations that prove Epstein had direct access to some of the most influential figures in technology, politics, and business. This doesn't automatically prove guilt or complicity in crimes, but it shows Epstein's chilling reach. He wasn't some isolated monster operating in secret. He was a man who could pick up the phone and arrange meetings with billionaires, political strategists, and innovators shaping the modern world. That alone is enough to reignite the global debate about who knew what and when. Among the strangest revelations is a so-called birthday book, a compilation of greetings, drawings, and letters assembled for Epstein's 50th birthday. It sounds almost comical on the surface, like some high school yearbook gag, but when you realize the contributors included celebrities, politicians, and business titans, it becomes something much darker. Each page is like a snapshot of his social circle, and each name scribbled inside represents another tie to Epstein's world. Some of the writings are banal, others eerily sycophantic, and one note allegedly connected to Donald Trump has already sparked furious debate about how close their relationship really was. For years, Trump has downplayed his ties to Epstein, calling him a former acquaintance and nothing more. But when documents like this emerge, containing personal notes and signatures, it makes the denial harder to maintain. Across the Atlantic, the fallout is just as explosive. In the United Kingdom, fresh exposure of Epstein's ties to high-ranking figures has already cost careers. Peter Mandelson, once one of the most powerful figures in British politics and until recently the UK's ambassador to the United States, was dismissed after emails emerged in which he referred to Epstein as a best pal, even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor. The revelation sent shockwaves through British media and forced the government into crisis mode, as critics demanded to know how someone with such questionable loyalties had been allowed to serve in such a high diplomatic post. And then there's Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, who is once again facing scrutiny after emails showed her calling Epstein a supreme friend. Several charities quickly cut ties with her, and her reputation, already fragile after years of scandals, has taken yet another blow. Meanwhile, in the United States, the Department of Justice and the FBI released a memo earlier this year insisting there is no evidence of a client list and no proof of a coordinated blackmail operation. To some, this was a relief. To others, it was yet another cover-up. The problem with the Epstein case is that trust has long since evaporated. Every official statement is met with skepticism, every denial with suspicion. Survivors point out that powerful men had every reason to bury the truth, while conspiracy theorists argue that Epstein's sudden death in a New York jail was far too convenient. The DOJ memo didn't stop the public from demanding more, and now that new documents are emerging, many are accusing authorities of withholding key evidence all along. Perhaps the most powerful voices in this moment are those of Epstein's survivors, the women who endured years of exploitation and have been fighting for recognition, accountability, and justice. In September 2025, survivors held a press conference, urging the government to release every scrap of information without delay. They argue that transparency is not only owed to them, but necessary for the public to understand the full scale of Epstein's operations. Some survivors even suggested they may create their own list based on testimonies if the government refuses to fully disclose the truth. Their determination is a stark reminder that while celebrities and billionaires dominate headlines, the real story of Epstein is about the young girls whose lives were shattered. Adding a surreal twist to the ongoing drama, an anonymous art collective recently installed a life-size statue on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., depicting Donald Trump holding hands with Jeffrey Epstein. The statue was quickly removed by authorities, but not before photos and videos went viral across social media. Supporters called it a provocative act of protest, a way to force uncomfortable questions about Epstein's friendships. Critics called it a stunt, designed only to inflame tensions. Either way, it shows just how culturally radioactive Epstein's name remains, so toxic, in fact, that even symbolic art installations can cause national uproar. And now, Congress is stepping in. A bipartisan coalition in the House of Representatives is pushing a discharge petition that would force the release of all Epstein-related files currently held by the Department of Justice. Normally, leadership bottlenecks prevent controversial documents from surfacing, but the recent Democratic victory in a special election gave supporters the extra vote they needed to potentially reach the 218 signatures required. If successful, this move could blow the lid off the remaining secrets, forcing names, emails, calendars, and testimonies into the public domain. For years, people have speculated about a so-called Epstein client list, an alleged roster of elites who participated in or turned a blind eye to his crimes. While the DOJ insists no such list exists, the pressure to reveal everything has never been higher, and the public appetite for answers has never been more ravenous. So what does this all mean? On one level, the release of these documents is about accountability. Every calendar entry, every phone call, every note scribbled in a birthday book is another piece of the puzzle. It may not prove criminal guilt, but it paints a picture of just how embedded Epstein was in the halls of power. On another level, it's about trust, or the lack of it. For decades, elites operated behind closed doors, assuming their secrets would never see the light of day. Epstein was part of that system, and his downfall cracked it open. The more documents are released, the more the public sees how small the world of the powerful really is, and how closely connected entertainment, politics, finance, and exploitation can be. But it's also about narrative. Already, spin machines are at work. Billionaires like Elon Musk and Bill Gates have rushed to distance themselves, insisting their meetings were brief, professional, or unrelated to Epstein's crimes. Politicians are scrambling to downplay old emails, calling them relics of a different time. And celebrities caught in the periphery are hiring PR firms to manage the fallout. In the modern era, perception is everything, and the Epstein files threaten to reshape reputations in ways that no press release can fix. The controversy shows no signs of slowing down. Every week brings a new headline, a new revelation, or a new scandal tied to these documents. Survivors are demanding justice. Politicians are maneuvering for position. The media is salivating over every name that drops. And the public? The public is glued to the spectacle, torn between outrage and fascination, suspicion and exhaustion. The truth is, the Epstein case was never just about one man. It was about the system that allowed him to thrive, the enablers who looked the other way, and the culture of secrecy that protected him for decades. These new documents may not answer every question, but they push the door open wider than ever before. They remind us that power without accountability breeds corruption, and that no amount of money or influence can bury the truth forever. So, as we wait for more releases, more redacted pages, more names and meetings and notes, one thing is clear: the Epstein story isn't over. If anything, it's just beginning. And the biggest question isn't just who appears in the documents, but who still hasn't been revealed. Because in the shadowy world of Jeffrey Epstein, every revelation leads to another mystery. Every answer sparks 10 new questions, and the snake pit of secrets seems bottomless.